everyone, and welcome to the first members case study. Firstly, I'd like to say a huge thank you to Loraine for volunteering Max for the first weeks. It takes confidence to allow your own training journey to become a learning opportunity for everyone else. And hopefully by the end of this session, you'll all take something away that applies to your own dogs too. So this week, we are looking at Max, an 8-year-old Labrador, I believe, who's struggled with dog reactivity for most of its life. Now, as far as I'm aware, Lorraine's goal isn't to have Max playing with every dog that he meets. The goal is actually much simpler than that and more realistic, which is great. It's probably a goal that a lot of you are interested in, and that's just being able to walk through the village and comfortably pass dogs on the opposite side of the road without Max feeling the need to react. So I think that's an excellent goal, because rehab isn't just about creating social butterflies. In fact, it's not about that at all. It's just about helping dogs to feel safe enough that they no longer need to rely on reactive behaviour. So, who is Max? So before we watch any footage, let's quickly look at Max's history. So one of the first things that stand out is that Max experienced an unpleasant encounter with an off-lead dog when he was around a year old. Now, many people would immediately conclude that a single event like this has caused the reactivity, but that's not actually what I think. The reason I say that is because Max met another dog shortly afterwards and didn't react. So that tells me that this behaviour wasn't created overnight. Instead, over the following months, they started to see increasing arousal around dogs, difficulty regulating himself during social interactions, and eventually snapping during play. That's all things that we need to take into consideration as well. We also know that one of his littermates displays very similar behaviour. Now, that doesn't prove genetics are responsible entirely either, but it does tell me that there may be an underlying predisposition that, when we combine that with life experiences, has influenced the dog that we see in Max today. We need to remember that behaviour is rarely caused by one thing. It's usually like lots of little pieces just coming together over time. So the first clip you're about to see was actually recorded before Loraine joined the programme, and she sent it over to me, said that I could use it. And I think it's useful because it shows us where Max started, not because it's where he is today. So straight away on that first clip, which is where they were also working with a trainer before me, what I notice is a dog who is significantly over threshold. Like, he's barking, he's lunging, he's trying to grab the lead, he is no longer processing information. And at this point, we're not just looking at a dog who's refusing to listen. We are looking at a dog whose emotional brain has completely taken over. I think one thing I want to point out about the lead biting is people can often assume that that's stubbornness or just bad behaviour, but I definitely don't. To me, it looks much more like redirected emotion, redirected behaviour. Max has all this emotional energy, but he can't reach the thing that's causing it. So in Max's eyes, that energy has to go somewhere. So the lead has just become the outlet, you know. The dog isn't making thoughtful choices anymore. It's just Max trying to cope. So if we fast forward to where Max is today, this is where I want everyone to pay attention, because it's very easy to focus on what still needs improving and completely miss how much progress has already happened. I mean, look at him. Look at his body language. Look at his face. Like, his movement is so much softer. Out there, he's sniffing, his breathing looks to be a lot calmer, and when a trigger appears, he's noticing them, but he doesn't immediately explode. He can observe, think, and disengage. Now, that is a completely different emotional state, and that's exactly what we're trying to create when doing this sort of work. So the biggest reason this kind of training is working is because Loraine has stopped asking Max to cope with situations that he's just not emotionally ready for. Instead, Lorraine's done the challenge, she did the previous programme, and she's also been to the 3-day retreat. So she's got plenty of training tools, if you like, under her belt. So she's well versed in creating enough distance that Max can stay online. That's a really important concept. It's worth mentioning that you should know by now, but distance isn't avoiding training. Distance is what allows training to happen. When Max can stay under threshold, he's very capable of learning. And when dogs go over threshold, that learning stops. Now, the next challenge, and the more difficult part that Loraine asked me to pick up on in this video, is how do we reduce the distance without making Max feel unsafe? And I think this is where many owners accidentally can undo months of progress. They think, oh, great, they're doing brilliant here. Let's move 5 meters closer. But behavior and emotions, the changes that happen there, they're not measured in meters. It's measured in emotional stability. So before I decrease distance with any dog that I'm working with, I'm always asking several questions. Are they recovering quickly after seeing a trigger? Are they choosing to disengage without needing constant prompting? Is their body staying soft and loose? Are they still interested in taking food from me? And are they offering like calm behaviors voluntarily? So in a lot of the video that we saw of Max towards the end, the answer to those questions was yes. And that's when I then might reduce the difficulty, but only slightly. Like sometimes that's not even moving closer. It might simply be working in a slightly busier environment while keeping the exact same distance. And for me, that's often a much smoother progression than halving the distance each time you go out towards the trigger, you know? It's really worth thinking in layers. Rather than thinking, how close can I get? I really encourage everyone to start asking, how can I just make this like 5% harder, but be able to keep our distance? Maybe another dog appears briefly, maybe that environment becomes a bit busier, as I've said, maybe the session lasts slightly longer. You know, progress with rehab doesn't just have to come from distance alone. But if I was focusing on closing the gap after I'd done all of that, for Max, my priorities over the coming weeks would be definitely maintaining that emotional state that we're seeing in these newer videos. I mean, it's literally night and day between the two concepts. I would start gradually introducing slightly more challenging environments without changing too many variables at once. And finally, paying close attention to recovery, because recovery will often tell us more than a reaction itself. It's highly likely that when you do increase the difficulty, a reaction will happen somewhere. It's more than likely to happen, but it's in those reactions where both the dogs and you can learn. The goal is to never have another reaction. It's to go, oh, okay, what's changed? How can I work them through this? The dogs are often in a much more stable emotional state that we are then able to kind of see that reaction and go, I'm not running away. We're going to work through this. Okay. So all of these things I'd be looking at, kind of neutraling out the session and the walk as much as possible. Like that's the picture I want to build. I want to build a dog being able to see other triggers and distractions and just carry on with the world, because that's got nothing to do with us. That's often what I will verbalize to my dogs, especially if they notice something, they check back into me, nice work, that's super, and they look back again, I'm like, oh, it's nothing to do with us, let's go. And they're like, oh, okay, no problem. And because I'm unbothered about it, they very quickly pick up on that, and they can realize that, you know, there's not a lot to worry about. So that's really a message that is useful to translate. So I think even if your dog is completely different to Max, there are three lessons that I'd love you to take away from this case study. Firstly, don't underestimate the progress that you've already made. You know, sometimes we're so focused on the finish line that we forget to kind of look back and see how far we've come. Secondly, taking distance isn't failure. Distance creates learning. Now, where we go in terms of our walks is a big factor as well. So I think a lot of reactive dogs get used to walking in open spaces away from the other areas where the dogs are, etc., etc. And that's okay for, you know, a large portion of the work that you do. If you're both happy in those settings, I know I certainly am. I would much rather go out over the hills, not see a single soul, and just me and my dog. But, you know, even if you introduce in one busier setting a week and start neutraling it out, doing your check-ins, keep working together and keep walking together, and you're the eyes. Or if you've got somebody else with you, even better, they can be the eyes. So you can just focus on being with Max. Good boy, nice job, let's go. Look at them, you know, talk them through it. Oh, look at this, there's a dog coming up. Oh, they're having fun, aren't they? Oh, fantastic, lovely, right. Come on then, we'll go this way, it's nothing to do with us. You can literally verbalize it. Because what you're doing is you're actually verbalizing to yourself that everything is okay. And guess what translates to the dog? Everything is okay. So yeah, distance isn't failure. Distance can really create learning. And finally, like, don't rush that progression. The goal isn't to get as close as possible or pass as close as possible or put the dog under as much pressure as possible. The goal is to just help your dog to feel safe enough that getting closer eventually becomes possible. So I've already spoken to Loraine in a separate consultation program that she's in about how to kind of build those movements in, that when Max sees the dog, she's doing a lot of lap, a lot of check-in, which is absolutely what I've told her to do. And now's the time to progress that, where instead of getting the reward, the sight of looking at another dog, we're now putting the reward into walking next to Loraine and carrying on. Okay, so as soon as you start building up the habit of that process more and more, and Max learns that, okay, I've seen the dog, and then I come to heel, and then we walk for a bit, and then I get my reward, then you're extending the duration of not only that reward, but what you're getting from Max in that process. And eventually that will become the norm. I see something, I move away. I see something, I move away. And that's internally reinforcing for a fearful dog like Max, because distance is the biggest reinforcer that we can give them. The food is a bonus. It's an extra. And it might be that you'll be able to close the gap to, let's say, 2 meters away from him. And that is his limit. That's all he can deal with for that portion of the rehab. Okay. And then, like, you know, if you want to go on to like building social skills and stuff like that, that gets a lot trickier. And that is something that I would definitely do in more in-person work, just because we have to be very specific about what dogs we're using, making sure that the situations are positive for the likes of Max, and just reading those nuances between closing that gap and whether we take them away or whether we kind of push on through. So that can be a little bit more specific. But Loraine, you are in the aftercare program, so if that's something that you want to look at, obviously you've got me in your pocket. We can definitely look at that. But for now, do those things. Get a little bit creative on, lost my words, on making it like 5% more difficult each time. And that doesn't always involve distance. So Loraine, thank you again for allowing us to share Max's journey. I think you're doing a fantastic job. And I know it can feel frustrating when progress slows, but I hope seeing these videos side by side reminds you just how much has already changed with Max, and that you're doing a fantastic job. So for everyone else, thank you. I'll see you on the next case study, and we'll take another deep dive into a completely different dog and another unique behavioural challenge. So we'll leave that there for now. If you've got any questions, fire them up below on the post in school, and I'll speak to you soon.